Welcome to the Gray Area Podcast live show. Kevin Gray, of course, of 97.1 The Freak. I got to get used to saying that these days. I appreciate you joining me here live on YouTube. I'm streaming this here on StreamYard. I'm testing out my fancy new microphone that I got here. So I appreciate you joining me. Wherever you're listening or watching, you can also listen to the audio version once the live show is done on Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast for free. So tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to come in and come hang out with me so we're gonna be doing this a little differently. So if you see me tweeting or looking at the phone or whatever the case may be, I'm just trying to tell people, hey, Kevin Gray's doing a live show right now on his YouTube channel. So this is something that's new for me. Trying to get used to doing this a little bit more often. So I appreciate you hanging out with me. You can find me on Twitter at Kevin Gray Sports. Again, live version as we're doing this. Kevin, let's see. I'm live right now. How about, let's do this one because I want to use the one that I was telling people about, that you can come in, subscribe to Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube, and then you can actually, see me live here. So let's try this again. I'm live right now. Yep. Let's see if that works. Yep, we're good. We're good. Just like the Cowboys are live last night. I got a lot to get into here on this episode of the Gray Area Podcast because the Cowboys put a beat down on the Philadelphia Eagles last night. That was fun. 33-13. Shout out to the leading NFL MVP candidate in one reign, Dakota Prescott. Mavericks are in action tonight. They take on the Memphis Grizzlies. Oh, we got one person in here. Oh, this is good. We got one. So we got one so far. And then we've got Shohei Ohtani signing for $700 million to go play baseball with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Never forget, boys and girls, teach your kids how to play baseball. Teach them how to play baseball. It usually works out for them, especially if they're really, really good and happen to be a guy that can throw a ball 100 miles an hour and also hit a ball 450 feet. You can also leave comments as well. Again, I'm on StreamYard. This is a new one for me. I usually do this on Zoom, but I got rid of Zoom, so I'm not doing that anymore. So you can come in and post a comment on the show. You can leave a super chat. I'm gonna see if if I'm live here on the YouTube. I should be, at least right now anyway. But like I said, this is something new. Gonna have some fun with it. So if there's some kinks with it, if you see it and it's not like, hey, I'm not live, sorry about that. But we're working on it. But again, my name is Kevin Gray. This is the Gray Area Podcast. I'm going to be talking about pretty much anything on this podcast. Again, you can leave a comment on my YouTube channel. In fact, again, since we're live, let's see if I'm actually live on YouTube right now. So don't mind me as I look to see what's going on right now and see if it is actually live because, it's live on my channel. Let's see here. Live right now. Oh, there's more people coming in. I like this. Okay, if you're in here, I need you to leave me a comment. Let me know that you're live. Let me know that you're watching. And we're going to get into it because I feel like I've stalled enough. I've given 3-4 minutes for people to come in, and now we can talk about anything that either y'all want to talk about or I want to talk about or we all want to talk about. But I'm going to start with the Cowboys because the Cowboys yesterday put on a show at AT&T Stadium. The Cowboys get a 33-13 win over the Philadelphia Eagles. They, at the moment now, are in first place in the NFC East. Now, you say, Kevin, hold on a minute, because the Cowboys, yes, they are tied at 10-3 at the top of the NFC East with the Philadelphia Eagles after they win last night, but the Eagles hold the tiebreaker as long as they continue to win ball games. And I say to you, unfortunately, you are right. That is because the Cowboys, who had a terrible loss early on in the season to the Arizona Cardinals, find themselves in a bad position that if the Eagles do win out, they would lose that tiebreaker. Appreciate you joining me here on the Gray Area Podcast. Again, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel here at Kevin Gray Sports, and you can find me on X at Kevin Gray Sports as well, talking Cowboys, Eagles, as the Cowboys get that 33-13 win. But most importantly for the Cowboys, they needed this win. You look at what has gone on at home so far this year. They've now won 15 straight games. Dak Prescott is the leading NFL MVP candidate by odds makers, no matter which odds maker you want to use. But the Cowboys used a terrific defense. They used that defense to hold the Eagles without an offensive touchdown for the first time in 95 games. That's how good that defense was last night. The only touchdown that they had was on a Jalen Carter, fumble recovery for a touchdown off of Fletcher Cox sack there. What's up, Aiden? Appreciate you joining me here. Let's effing go, KG. Appreciate you. Love that you got comments here. Drop in a comment as well if you want to here on the live show. Again, it's the Gray Area Podcast. Again, my name is Kevin Gray of 97.1 The Freak. Still getting used to saying that. But again, Cowboys defense was spectacular. And one of the things I said on Twitter last night, or X or whatever we call it, is the idea that, look, man, this Cowboys defense last night, the offense in general, the entire team in general, it felt like this was personal last night. So much so that we heard after the game that, Stephon Gilmore, the Cowboys corner, and A.J. Brown were going at it throughout the course of the game. And apparently at one point, A.J. Brown was jaw-jacking with Stephon Gilmore and called him an old man, which apparently lit a fire under the former NFL Defensive Player of the Year. And I thought did Stephon Gilmore his best game of the season. He was physical. He wound up causing a fumble. Donovan Wilson did the same as well. It was just a terrific all-around effort for the Cowboys to finally put themselves in a conversation where we can look at them as one of the best teams in the NFL. Because the Cowboys all season long have been beaten up on a bunch of bad football teams. And you say, Kevin, they can only play who's on their schedule, to which I say, you're right. But at the same time, they had not beaten teams that we considered good in the NFL. They didn't beat the Philadelphia Eagles the first time around. They got their tail whooped by the San Francisco 49ers in Santa Clara. And for a lot of us, including myself, the Cowboys needed to win this game to show and prove that they were one of the best teams in the NFC and that they could be taken legitimately seriously as an NFC contender. Now, they do have games in their next couple of games on the road against Buffalo and Miami. Buffalo getting a wild win in Arrowhead on Sunday after, of course, Kadarius Toney didn't know where the hell to line up on the offensive side and got called for an offsides, and that razzle-dazzle touchdown that he and Travis Kelce put together was nullified, and, of course, Kansas City goes on to lose that game. Patrick Mahomes and that team in trouble right now because none of his guys either know how to catch the football, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, or know how to line up where they need to be in order to satisfy this offense. Patrick Mahomes was livid last night. I don't know if you saw it, but Patrick Mahomes lost his damn mind after the Chiefs lost that game to Buffalo. A little bit on the NFL a little bit later on. But back to the Cowboys. I said coming into this game on Sunday night that the Cowboys had a chance to prove to a lot of us that they are legit. I think they were able to do so with this convincing win and handing a second straight beatdown to the Philadelphia Eagles, who are in trouble themselves right now. Jalen Hurts continuing to turn over the football, and more importantly, the Cowboys defense putting up a really good performance against a good offense that we know that we've seen in Philadelphia so far this year and over the last couple of years, obviously. Again, appreciate you joining me here on the Gray Area Podcast Live. My name is Kevin Gray, host of the Gray Area Podcast. It is December 11th, 2023, live on StreamYard and on YouTube as well. Make sure you hit the subscribe button for my YouTube channel. Check out all my content here on YouTube. And also, you can follow me on X at Kevin Gray Sports, talking Cowboys, Eagles. Let me know what you thought about the Cowboys in our chat. Again, you can leave a comment in there as well. Let me know what you thought about the Cowboys win last night over the Eagles 33-13 to move to 10-3 on the season. But the Cowboys took last night's game personally. There was a level of physicality and intensity I hadn't seen in a while from this team on both sides of the football. Dak Prescott, while he didn't play his best game of the season, was still really, really good last night and now cements himself in the MVP discussion along with Brock Purdy and Lamar Jackson, Christian McCaffrey, whomever you want to put in that discussion. Dak Prescott cemented himself in that conversation last night. Micah Parsons was a man among boys, getting one of the most ferocious sacks that you'll see from an NFL player, bull rushing through Lane Johnson to get to Jalen Hurts to sack the quarterback. So what does all this mean? What does all this chitter chatter mean? It means that when you start discussing the best teams in the NFL, the Dallas Cowboys are legitimately one of them. They are now the second best team in the NFC, a distant second, yes, but second nonetheless behind the San Francisco 49ers. They handled business this weekend over the Seattle Seahawks to continue their run. They're now the number one team in the NFC right now. But when you look at the Cowboys and what they did last night, holding the Eagles without a touchdown offensively, Dak Prescott continuing to remain efficient on the offensive side of the ball, that defense putting together one of its best performances all season, and you look at what's ahead for them for the last 4 games, Buffalo, Miami, Detroit, and Washington to end the season, they are in position to at least be in contention to win the NFC East. They have to have some things break their way, but at the same time, they are in position to make and control their own destiny when it comes to having one of the top 2 seed in the NFC if the Eagles happen to falter down the stretch. Well, you say, Kevin, the Philadelphia Eagles have the easiest remaining schedule in all the National Football League. Literally the easiest schedule remaining in the NFL. To which I say, okay, yeah, that is true. But the way that the Eagles have been playing right now, what confidence do you have that they can find themselves securing the NFC East based on what you've seen from them the last couple of weeks? If you feel that way, much like I do, then the Cowboys are in a really good position. Hey, but shout out to Big Mike, man. As you know, I love to call him Big Mike. Big Mike, who had his appendix removed on Wednesday, found himself on the sideline, and he was in his play calling bag on Sunday night with his aggressiveness, his willingness to go for it on 4th down, and more importantly, for his Cowboys offense, continuing to put the pedal to the metal and putting pressure on that Philadelphia Eagle defense, where we know that secondary for them hasn't been great, Mr. Slay, over the course of this season. So the Cowboys now at 10-3, second now in the NFC overall behind the San Francisco 49ers. Now with their next 4 games, 2 on the road against Buffalo and Miami, now have a chance to further cement the discussion of them being one of the top teams in all of the National Football League. Buffalo resuscitated their season after getting an important win in Kansas City, and they now have some confidence as they get ready to take on the Cowboys. Josh Allen being Josh Allen and his superhuman Hulk-like self is one of my favorite touchdowns all season, pushing the pile into the end zone in Kansas City. Buffalo's going to be ready to play, and I wish that we would have gotten the matchup of Trayvon Diggs versus his brother, Stephon Diggs. Unfortunately, we won't get that matchup because Trayvon has been out, of course, with a torn ACL. But we'll get into more of that as the show or later on in the week, because here's what's going to happen here on this show. Again, it's the Gray Area Podcast live here on my YouTube channel here at Kevin Gray Sports. Make sure you subscribe and hit the like button on this video as well. I'm going to be doing this podcast live, hopefully 3 times a week. And you'll have me here on Mondays. I'll bring a guest with me on Wednesdays. And then on Fridays, we'll have some fun as we get ready for the NFL weekend, NBA, and all kinds of stuff. So, again, you can find me on X at Kevin Gray Sports. Again, we're doing live tweeting and looking to see if all y'all in here. And some of y'all are in here. Appreciate that, man. Again, leave a comment in there as well if you want to on the show based on what you saw in week 14 of the NFL, the NBA, and the in-season tournament, which we'll get into a little bit later on as well. Shout out to my man, Reg. I can't shake it habit. I can't. We'll get into this as the show goes on. Can't shake the habit either. Ha. Yep, you're right. Exactly. It's a radio thing. And look, I'm a little nervous, okay? You got to give me a little credit here, okay? A little nervous. Haven't done this in a while, but I appreciate my man Reg texting me saying, hey, man, chill out, relax. We're just talking here. And that's what we're doing. As we're talking Cowboys, Eagles after they get their 33-13 win over the Philadelphia Eagles. Let me know how you felt about week 14 of the National Football League as well. As you know, I do have some more free time on my hands these days as I get to do this full time now. Of course, it was previously with 105 through the fan, and now with 97 the Freak as the Mavericks pre and post game host over there. Mavericks are in action tonight, actually, as they take on the Memphis Grizzlies. Mavericks dealing with a little bit of injury issue as Kyrie Irving, he's going to be out tonight as he's got a right heel contusion. Shout out to Dwight Powell. Also, Josh Green, he's got out. He's got a right elbow strain. Let's see who else is out. Grant Williams, that's right. He's got knee soreness. And Maxi Kleber also, he's out as well. He's got, that's right, a small toe dislocation of some sort. So the Mavericks going to be shorthanded taking on a Memphis Grizzlies team that's 6-15 on the season, just 1-9 at home so far this year, as they are desperately awaiting the return of one Ja Morant, who, of course, is suspended for the first 25 games of the season. The Mavericks have a chance to win their third game in a row after putting a 50-point beat down on the Utah Jazz on Wednesday. They get a nice little road win against Portland on Saturday. Shout out to Derrick Jones Jr. and Dante Exum. Dante Exum stuffing the stat sheet with over 20 points, over 5 assists, over 5 rebounds as well. Derrick Jones Jr. shooting the lights out from the three-point line. And the Mavericks right now, 13-8 through their first 21 games of the season. And for a team that can't play a lick of defense, they can score with anybody in the league. And you've seen that so far this season. Luka Doncic already surpassing Larry Bird on the all-time triple-doubles list. He's got now a career 60 triple-doubles. He's been fantastic for them offensively, embracing the new pace of play that Jason Kidd has wanted to incorporate throughout the course of the season. It was funny because I was talking to somebody over at the Mavericks, and, I asked them about, this whole new pace of play that they've been incorporating this season. And they told me, yeah, when we got this thing started, Jason Kidd wasn't running a whole lot of plays, trying to get used to the pace and getting up and down the floor. And what you've seen so far in transition for the Mavericks. And so far it's working out just fine for them. A team that's top 10 in pace right now, a top 5 offensive efficiency team. Well, hanging around 22nd, 23rd in defensive efficiency. They're top 15 right now in overall net rating. And you couple that with what you've seen from rookie Derek Lively II, who's been spectacular for them so far this year with his rim running, him working the pick and roll with Luka Doncic on the defensive end, providing some shot blocking, a little bit of rebounding, some, shot deterrence there as well. The Mavericks are coming along just fine, and you're hoping that once they get healthy with the returns of Kyrie Irving, Grant Williams, who was shooting the lights out early on in the season, struggled as of late and has now missed the last couple of games due to knee soreness, that you're going to find this team keeping themselves within the top 6 of the West. You've seen surprising teams like, of course, the Minnesota Timberwolves, who are playing terrific basketball right now, a team that I have personally been high on since the beginning of the season, in the Oklahoma City Thunder, with all the collection of talent that they have. That con artist Sam Presti finally putting together a team that's worth watching night in and night out. And Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, one of the best players in the league, a first-team All-NBA selection alongside Luka Doncic last year. They've been fun to watch. And obviously, the Houston Rockets, they're playing a little bit better these days. They finally got some grown-ups in the room when it comes to Fred VanVleet and others, Ime Udoka, really coaching that team well as far as their defense is concerned. There's been some fun things to watch so far in the West. The Lakers, now, of course, the newly minted in-season tournament champs after they beat the Indiana Pacers on Saturday night, where Anthony Davis, okay, I got to take a quick aside on Anthony Davis, okay? That version of Anthony Davis, the 40-20 version of Anthony Davis, the hyper-aggressive one on both offense and defense, when that version of Anthony Davis is on most nights, there's not a lot that teams can do with that version of AD, and he was spectacular. LeBron James turning back the hands of time during the in-season tournament as well in Vegas. The Lakers look really good right now. The Mavericks will welcome in the Lakers on Tuesday night at the American Airlines Center to take on LeBron and company. But for the Mavericks, they take on a Grizzlies team that's struggling, obviously, right now with the rash of injuries that they're dealing with. No Marcus Smart, obviously no Steven Adams as well. Desmond Bane has been good for them. The last time these two teams got together, it was at the American Airlines Center back on December 1st, and the Mavericks lost 108-94. to Desmond Bain and company. Desmond dropped 30 in that game. Grant Williams was the leading scorer. He had 16. Obviously, he's not playing in this game tonight for the Mavericks. So I expect the Mavericks to win tonight. They should. You'll probably get a monster triple-double from Luka Doncic, whom they're going to need a lot from him, from not just a scoring standpoint, but facilitating things as well. But big shout-out, look, man, to Derrick Jones Jr., Dante Exum. You're getting a lot from both of these guys. And for Mavericks fans or basketball fans in general, starting with Derrick Jones, he was a late offseason signing. Didn't think he was necessarily going to be a starter for this team. And so far has provided them some good defense. And more importantly, he's knocking down wide open jumpers. And he's been given, I guess, the green light to take as many as he wants to. And you probably should when you get a bunch of open looks from Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving with their ability to get to the basket and make things happen for themselves and for their teammates. And for Dante Exum, he's had a renaissance in terms of his career, coming back over to the NBA. He's got length, he's got size, and now, and what you'll see hopefully tonight and going forward as well, more confidence and aggressiveness from shooting from the three-point line. And if that is the case, the Mavericks, while yes, their depth is going to get tested over the next several games with the amount of injuries that they're dealing with, you should feel confident if you're an MFFL or a Mavs fan in general that this team can be able to hold things together while they get healthy. They should be able to handle business tonight in Memphis. As they mentioned, they've won their last two games, put a 50-point beat down on Utah, and they're handling business against Portland. But it's been exciting to watch this team continue to grow. And you give Jason Kidd, yes, you give Jason Kidd some credit about what this team has been able to do offensively. And more importantly, you can thank him for Dante Exum, because Dante Exum was a guy that Jason Kidd was high on coming into the season. And so far, he's proven him right based on the play that you've seen from him. And that is not something that I expected for sure. Because, look, there were real questions for me, and my man Reg can attest to it. Questions about whether or not Jason Kidd was actually good at this. Yes, they were able to go to the Western Conference Final in his first year, took a major step back last year with the amount of injuries that they were dealing with, eventually being able to get Derek Lively in the draft, drafting Omax Prosper as well. They've embraced a new pace of play to try and get up and down the floor. Luka Doncic has also embraced that as well. Kyrie Irving, we know, is going to score for days, but at the same time, at this point in his career, how much more does he contribute to winning based off of what the Mavericks need him to do? So far, he's been really good. And by the way, been a model citizen as well. The Mavericks have gone out of their way to ensure Kai is comfortable in his surroundings here in Dallas after, of course, signing that 3-year massive deal over the summer to remain in Dallas. So look, 13-8 through the first 21 games of the season. You'll take that as being third in the West right now. If you're a Mavericks fan, yeah, defensively, they got to find a way to get better, especially in the last 4 or 5 minutes of games, because if you're going to be a team that's going to be considered a top 6 team in the West, not only can you score with teams, but you got to find a way to get stops when it matters most. And this team at times has not been good at doing that. And my expectation for them was, look, if they could come into this season and find a way to be a top 15, 16 defense, we know that they're going to score and be a top 5 offensive efficiency team this year. If they could do that, then this team could win 45 to 50 games. Now my expectation is, hey, man, can you just finish in the top 20 somewhere? If you can do that, then I can feel pretty good about what your chances are to be a top 6 team in the West, because the way that you have to evaluate defense, at least for me in particular, you got to find ways to get stops when it matters most in clutch time, where the Mavericks have actually been pretty decent in clutch time so far this year. Shout out to Tim Hardaway Jr., who's on his 6th Man of the Year campaign, as he's been averaging 17, 18 points per game off the bench for the Mavericks offensively. So you're getting shot making and shot creation from Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. You're getting a bunch of shots being made from Derrick Jones Jr., Dante Exum, also Tim Hardaway Jr. off the bench. You're getting some good minutes from a guy in A.J. Lawson. Seth Curry at times has been pretty good for them as well. And Derek Lively, who's been a pleasant surprise for them at center. His maturation and growth is going to be extremely important for them to be able to move forward in the West, because to have this much dependence on a 19-year-old rookie kind of scares me a little bit, but at the same time shows that he's got enough maturity to handle the role and, most importantly, grow as he continues to work with Tyson Chandler, who has been well chronicled and documented that he is going to be working and continuing to work with the young center from Duke as this season goes on. And if that is the case, guess what? Derek Lively has a chance to be really good, and he's been really fun to watch so far, especially getting out in transition where this team is taking more transition threes. Raise your hand if you thought that Luka Doncic would be taking not only catch and shoot threes on a much more regular basis, but also taking transition threes as well. Luka Doncic going into the game on Saturday was shooting 40% from three this year. Didn't see that coming in terms of the increase, not just volume, but also accuracy from downtown and the variety of three-point shots that he's taking so far this year. That's been fun to watch if you're the Dallas Mavericks and for Mavericks fans. So look, they should handle business tonight against Memphis, take on the Lakers tomorrow. That should be a fun one at the AAC when they welcome in LeBron James and Anthony Davis. As far as the Lakers are concerned, they're going to be playing with a lot of confidence after coming off their in-season tournament championship, handling business against the Indiana Pacers. But the Mavericks right now in good position after the first quarter of the season to be able to move forward in the West. Again, it's the Gray Area Podcast live on YouTube. Appreciate you joining me here. Again, my name is Kevin Gray. Make sure you hit the subscribe button on YouTube as well. Leave a comment as well. I'll be able to see your comments. Let me know that you're in here and come hang out with me. We chat a little bit about the Cowboys getting their 33-13 win over the Philadelphia Eagles. Mavericks in action tonight and tomorrow, taking on the Grizzlies and the Lakers. Week 14 in the NFL is almost in the books. By the way, can someone tell me why are there two Monday Night Football games tonight at the same time? Didn't realize that was happening. You got what? The Green Bay Packers taking on the Giants, and you got the Tennessee Titans taking on the Miami Dolphins at the exact same time. I didn't realize there were two Monday night games going on at the same time. But nonetheless, I won't be able to watch them because I'll be hosting tonight as the Mavericks take on the Grizzlies. Pre and post game, pregame begins, I believe, at 6:30. I should know that because I'm the one hosting it. At 6:30 tonight with tip-off at 7 in Memphis. I had to make sure I thought about it because the Mavericks and Lakers play tomorrow night at 7:30. Look, man, trying to keep up with NBA times and all kinds of stuff is wild. But let me know how you're feeling about Week 14. As I go through Week 14 real quick before I get into, Shohei Ohtani's $700 million that he signed for the Dodgers. Hey, man, somebody tell Kadarius Toney to take a step back, take a step back. Because watching that game yesterday, first of all, it's always a hell of a game between the Bills and the Chiefs, no matter what, whether it's playoffs or regular season, especially at Arrowhead in Kansas City. For folks who don't know, I was born and raised in Kansas City, Missouri, but I didn't grow up a Chiefs fan. I grew up a third-generation Cowboys fan. That's why I talk about and love the Cowboys so much, because I had a family member that played for Tom Landry back in the day. That's another conversation from another day. Anyway, I didn't grow up as a Chiefs fan. But my heart went out to him yesterday because that razzle-dazzle touchdown was that over 40-yard touchdown that Travis Kelce and Kadarius Toney put together, which I thought was going to give the Chiefs the opportunity to win that game. It got called back because Kadarius Toney didn't know where the hell to line up on the offensive side and got called for offensive offsides, which apparently was the first time ever that Andy Reid, in calling over 21,000 some odd plays, had ever had his team called for offensive offsides. Mind-boggling stuff. But anyway, Chiefs are in trouble. The receivers can't catch the football. They don't know where to line up. Patrick Mahomes is about had it at this point, and I would too if I was watching my receivers make mental mistakes every single week. It felt like costing me football games, whether it was the Monday night game against the Philadelphia Eagles where Marquez Valdez-Scantling dropped the football that would have given them the win there, and then you got your boy Kadarius Toney not knowing where to line up. Hey, man, what's it about the Chiefs and the inability to line up correctly? You remember that one time in that one AFC title game where they didn't line up correctly and they wound up losing to the New England Patriots? You remember that? Yeah, me too. And then yesterday with Kadarius Toney. So Chiefs are in trouble right now. They got to figure out a way to win football games because quiet as it's kept, guess who's only one game behind them now in the AFC West? That's right, Mr. Unlimited, Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos, after they win yesterday and put a beat down on the Los Angeles Chargers. Apparently, your man Justin Herbert's got a broken finger on his throwing hand. He's probably done for the rest of the season. And I still don't know how Brandon Staley still has a job in the National Football League at this point, as the Chargers lose to the Denver Broncos. Broncos only one game behind Kansas City now in the AFC West, as you got, 4 or 5 games left in the regular season. So Chiefs are in trouble. Denver's coming. Baltimore got a hell of a win yesterday at home. Tylan Wallace, shout out to him. Punt return for a touchdown in what was a terrific football game between the Rams and the Ravens. Ravens now sitting at the top of the AFC playoff picture as it stands, as I, hit my little tablet here because, try to be professional when we're talking about this stuff. And as we look at it, so let me go back and look at it because I want to make sure I get this right. So right now in the AFC, we've got Baltimore at number 1. As soon as my tablet says that it wants to go, I'm assuming, Baltimore's at number 1. Okay, there we go. Baltimore number 1, Miami at number 2, Kansas City at 3, Jacksonville at 4, Cleveland at 5, Pittsburgh at 6, and the Colts would actually be in the playoffs if the season ended today. They're holding down the 7th spot with a collection of teams. We've got 6 teams at 7-6, including Buffalo, who got to 7-6 yesterday. So Ravens at 10-3, Miami at 9-3, Chiefs at 8-5, Jacksonville at 8-5 as well. Shout out to Joe Flacco, the elite Joe Flacco, who just a few weeks ago was sitting on his mama's couch watching games like me and you, now has come off the mat and helping the Browns win football games. They're 8-5 right now. They would be in the playoffs if the season ended today as well. So just a wild weekend. I feel like you could say that in every week of the National Football League. Just a wild weekend of NFL action in Week 14. Let me know how you're feeling about it. You can drop a comment in the chat there. Shout out to my man Aiden Slay, who dropped in a comment earlier in the show. Again, it's the Gray Area Podcast Live. My name is Kevin Gray, host of the Gray Area. It is December 11th, 2023. My biggest takeaway from Week 14 so far is, boy, I don't know what Kansas City does to try to fix this offense going forward for the rest of the year, because their receivers can't catch. They're making mental mistakes. Andy Reid's out here blaming, saying that the NFL, it was an embarrassment to the NFL based on what the call that was made yesterday. Patrick Mahomes has lost his damn mind. I had never seen Mahomes be as livid as he was yesterday after that game. And I guess I'd be livid too after what happened to me in that game against Buffalo. And Buffalo being able to resuscitate its season as they get ready. Of course, they would find a way to win and beat Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City before they welcome in the Dallas Cowboys this upcoming Sunday for a showdown in Buffalo. But that's my biggest takeaway from Week 14 is Chiefs are in trouble. Meanwhile, Baltimore, they are what they are. Shout out to Odell Beckham Jr. He caught a touchdown pass against his former team, who, of course, he won a Super Bowl with. And San Francisco, look, I know that you've got Dak Prescott, you've got Brock Purdy, you've got Lamar Jackson. You could throw CMC in there if you want to as an MVP candidate. Let me tell you something. I don't want to see Mr. Irrelevant. Yeah, I'm going to sound like a hater. I don't want to see Mr. Irrelevant win the Super Bowl. You know why? Because in my humble opinion, I don't think Mr. Purdy is even the best football player or most valuable player on his own football team, let alone the league. Well, you say, Kevin, he's been balling out as of the last 4 or 5 weeks with Deebo Samuel and George Kittle and the whole host of talent that they have on offense in San Francisco. And you would be very accurate in that assessment. But when I look at Brock Purdy, when I look at Dak Prescott, when I look at Lamar Jackson, and I see the ways that these three are playing, it feels like, at least in my opinion, that Dak Prescott is playing on another level right now. the level of confidence that he has in Mike McCarthy's Texas West Coast offense and the way that he's been quarterbacking his football team, he's been excellent on third down. Shout out to Mina Kimes, who let us know that Dak Prescott this season on third down over a 90 quarterback rating when playing on third down this year. That gives you an idea of that how good he's been in moments that have been most important to his team, and that most importantly tells you what kind of quarterbacking he's doing when his team needs him most. That's what Dak Prescott's been doing. He's playing right now the best football that I've seen him play since maybe the first 5-6 weeks of that 2021 season, where he was lighting it up and he capped it off with that overtime win in New England against Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots. That's the kind of football we're talking about that Dak Prescott's playing right now. But Purdy has been playing pretty good, man, and his collection of weapons around him, I tell people all the time, Brock Purdy's playing point guard. Look, if I could distribute the football to Deebo Samuel, to George Kittle, to Brandon Ayuk, Kyle Juszczyk, and I've got one of the best left tackles, if not the best left tackle in all of football, and Trent Williams. If I've got a good offensive line, I got a defense that's led by an all-pro linebacker and Fred Warner, I would feel comfortable, too, being able to make the kinds of throws with the kind of confidence that Brock Purdy's making. And I've got an offensive genius and Kyle Shanahan running things for me. So give Purdy credit for utilizing the weapons that he's got around him. Kyle Shanahan putting him in position to make those plays and the execution that they're just beating down teams with right now, like you saw, last week against the Philadelphia Eagles. And that's the other part, too. On the AFC side, Kansas City's in trouble. On the NFC side, Philly looking kind of fraudulent right now. Now, they've been getting away with it all season long. I've been hesitant to take it to the 2022 Minnesota Vikings because you know how much they got away with it last year. They were the stars of the get away with it all-stars last year with the Minnesota Vikings. Philadelphia acting real TCU, Minnesota Vikings-ish when it comes to get away with it. I know Red's going to text me later. Man, you didn't have to take a shot at TCU with the get away with it all-stars. But that's the way it's felt like the Philadelphia Eagles have been playing. And the last 2 weeks against two really good football teams, they have looked real fraudulent. So Nick Sirianni and that offense, they got to find a way because right now it doesn't look good for Philly, and they are letting them have it in the city of brotherly love when it comes to the Philadelphia Eagles. I think I just got a text from him. Yep. I'm sure. Look, you can tell Joel if you want to. Shout out to my man Joel Anderson, proud TCU alum, really good, terrific writer from Slate. Make sure you look at his podcast, listen to his podcast too. Slow Burn, really good podcast, friend of the show. From let's see, I don't even know how. We'll try it. Wet Camera Inc. I don't know if I needed to say that, but whatever. Panthers did the 49ers a huge solid, like the Titans did the Eagles. Look, you're going to find these kinds of wins and losses in the league, but at the same time, it happens, man. The 49ers are good by themselves. They don't need any help from anybody, but I get your point. Handle there. I don't know if I need to say that again, but I appreciate your comment, though. Thank you so much here on the Gray Area Podcast. As again, my name is Kevin Gray. It is the Gray Area Podcast live on YouTube. Make sure you hit the subscribe button for my channel here. I'll be doing this podcast 3 times a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. I'll be doing my solo thing here on Mondays. I'll bring a guest with me on Wednesdays, and then we'll have some fun with some prize stuff on Fridays. So I really appreciate you hanging out with me here. Talking a little Week 14 of the NFL. Cowboys get a really nice win over the Philadelphia Eagles. Mavericks in action tonight as they take on the Memphis Grizzlies. Over the weekend, we had the in-season tournament come to conclusion. I want to know your thoughts. Did you like it? Did you enjoy it? Did you hate it? What is you thinking about the NBA in-season tournament? The Lakers take out the Indiana Pacers in the in-season tournament final in Vegas. LeBron James, of course, the first ever in-season tournament MVP as the Lakers get the win in Vegas. One of my favorite parts about the tournament, not going to lie to you, is the fact that Tyrese Halliburton was introduced to the national stage. Indiana doesn't get to play a lot of nationally televised games, but Tyrese Halliburton is the truth, and you got to saw that on full display throughout the course of the IST, is what the kids are calling it these days. And Rick Carlisle, who has loved Tyrese Halliburton, had a conversation with Mark Stein, a couple days ago on his show about how much the Mavericks wanted to, or how much when he was with the Mavericks, Rick Carlisle wanted to trade to go get Tyrese Halliburton in the draft a few years ago. Could you imagine Luka Doncic and Tyrese Halliburton together on the same team? But anyway, I thought overall the in-season tournament was a success. It's hard to drum up a bunch of, out of thin air, excitement and enthusiasm about something that's brand new. But as the tournament went on, you could tell that the players were getting into it. Hell, I would too if $500,000 was on the line for me if I won the tournament. I think over $200,000 went to the Pacers and their players for losing the game. But at the same time, you could tell that the excitement was there as the rest of the tournament went on. And I thought it was executed well in terms of the championship game. And you got the biggest star in the game today, arguably, in LeBron James still, and his Los Angeles Lakers winning the in-season tournament, which, if you're an NBA fan, while you may not necessarily get down with the Lakers, this is still the premier franchise in the sport. And to see them on this stage representing, the Western Conference and winning the tournament, it wasn't too bad. Would I love to have seen the Mavericks there? I mean, sure, why not? They got to find a court to get together before they even do any of that next year. But for Los Angeles and the Lakers, hey, man, they're playing some really good basketball right now. And one thing that I loved watching about them, and as you say, Kevin, that's not good business, saying what you love about the Lakers. One thing that I wish that the Mavericks would do that the Lakers do, they defend, and they defend really, really well. And you saw that in the game against the Pacers, them locking down Tyrese Halliburton while the Pacers were able to stay in the game. I thought defensively, Darvin Ham's group really got after it. Austin Reeves was terrific in the game as well as their, third best player on the Lakers. You got LeBron or AD, however you want to have it, and then Austin Reeves. Austin Reeves was in his bag, and you could tell my man was hooping. He was getting into his step back mid-range, putting, a series of, in-between dribbles and crosses. Like, he was doing a lot in that game, and Hillbilly Kobe was out there handling business. So give the Lakers credit. They win the in-season tournament. I liked it more as the tournament went on. The whole idea of point differential, I don't like that. We got to find a way to get another way to create a tiebreaker of some sort. I wasn't necessarily feeling that. But at the same time, I'm glad it's over. It was successful. We'll see what the overall television ratings look like for the show or for the games themselves, which we've seen so far have been pretty good year over year for Adam Silver and the tournament. From Dark Salts, Kev, how did LeBron win MVP when AD had 40 and 20 and Reeves had 28? Dark Salts, his name is LeBron James. That's why he won the league or won the in-season tournament MVP. Because you're right. LeBron had a hell of a tournament. I mean, you saw he was turning back the hands of time. I think my man had 35, 5, and 5 in one of the games, something like that. LeBron was playing some really good basketball. But you're right. For the game itself, for the championship game itself, AD was a monster. And here's what bothered me, and I don't know if y'all knew this. So the statistics from that game, the in-season tournament final, those don't count toward the regular season at all. In fact, that game doesn't count toward their regular season record at all. So those stats and all the monster performances that Reeves and AD and Bron and the team put together, they don't mean a damn thing because they don't count toward the regular season tournament or the regular season record or their regular season statistics. So, I mean, if you're going to put in, work to go get $500,000, I guess you got to do what you got to do. But yeah, I feel you, Dark Salts. How LeBron win MVP? His name is LeBron James. But Anthony Davis was a monster. Shout out to my man Will Chambers. I'm sure he wanted to see AD win that NBA or the in-season tournament MVP. But back to regular season basketball now. In-season tournament over. Shout out to Adam Silver. Shout out to the NBA. I'm sure they love the fact that they were able to get this tournament in, and it was, for the most part, successful. So there you go. Again, this is the Gray Area Podcast. My name is Kevin Gray. Really appreciate you joining me live here on StreamYard, on my YouTube channel as well. Make sure you hit the subscribe button as well. I appreciate my man Reg, who has been watching the show, texting me, distracting me so far as the show has gone on. Y'all are in here. So you can find me on X at Kevin Gray Sports. You can download and subscribe to my Inside the Mavericks podcast, which is available on iHeartRadio or wherever you get your podcast for free. And the audio version of this podcast will be available as well. So you can download and subscribe to the Gray Area podcast wherever you get your podcast for free, whether it be Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. And appreciate you leaving a comment as well. I've had a few comments left so far during the show. Last 15 minutes of the show here before we get out of here on this Monday, because I got to get it ready for tonight's game between the Mavericks and the Grizzlies. Got to put myself together to get prepared for tonight. Here's a PSA for you out there, boys and girls. If you have a son or daughter, put a baseball glove and or bat in their hands from the time that they could speak or walk, because if they turn out to be really good at it, you will get an opportunity to sign the richest contract that we've ever seen in North American sports. That's right. Shohei Ohtani blows away the baseball world by signing a 10-year, $700 million contract this weekend to go play baseball with the Los Angeles Dodgers. And there were reports that he may have gone back to Los Angeles in terms of the Angels. Apparently, Toronto became a finalist and a front runner to sign Shohei Ohtani. But ultimately, he did the one thing that most of us do when we get into a situation where we're really good at something and someone wants to give us a bunch of money to do it. We go to the highest bidder. And it just happened to be that the highest bidder is one of the best teams in all of Major League Baseball. We say, Kevin, shout out to the real best team in Major League Baseball, the Texas Rangers, who won the World Series this year for the first time in franchise history. Shout out to Bruce Bochy, Chris Young, and the entire Texas Ranger franchise. But Shohei Ohtani looked around and said, you know what? Since I'm not pitching in 2024, I am going to be hitting, and I'm a player, so I'll just crush a lot. And he'll be doing that in the middle of a lineup with Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman. By the way, had no idea that Mookie Betts was going to be a full-time second baseman in 2024. Good for him. But here's one thing I will say about the Shohei Ohtani experience, the first ever foray into the Shohei Ohtani free agency experience. I didn't like it. Not going to lie to you. Shrouded in secrecy, he's got an agent out here that says, hey, man, y'all keep quiet, because if you mention my client's name and that you're talking to him, he's going to X you off his list in terms of potentially coming to play for you. And I found that to be really distasteful. Here's why. You got the biggest star in all the sport, one of the biggest stars in the world, whose free agency had been one of the most anticipated free agencies in quite some time, regardless of sport, and you shroud it in the type of secrecy that doesn't allow us to revel and enjoy what is a marvel in Shohei Ohtani, and more importantly, give us a chance to be able to have the kind of fun with this free agency that we get to have with most superstars in their respective sport, whether it be LeBron James, whether it be take your pick of superstar across the four major sport. We usually get a chance to have some fun in terms of their free agency. We didn't have that necessarily. We didn't necessarily have that with Shohei Ohtani. So for me, it was a little underwhelming given the idea of what we were hoping to see in terms of the excitement around it. But boy, did he make up for it by signing a $700 million deal. And if you're the Dodgers, here's the biggest thing with it. This is a drop in the bucket for them. And shout out to their television, deal that they have. They've got billions upon billions of dollars to be able to spend this kind of money on Shohei Ohtani. But for them, this is purely an investment, not just obviously for what you're going to get from him on the diamond as a player, as a once in literal generation type of player, but everything that comes with Shohei Ohtani, the popularity of him as a player, the support that he gets from Japan, the international star that he is, all of this money will be made up by the sheer eyeballs that will be not only on the sport, the team and the Dodgers, but the marketability of Shohei Ohtani himself. and he gets to remain on the West Coast where he has been over the last 6-7 years playing with the Angels. Speaking of the Angels, shout out to Ron Washington. My bad for you on that. If I'm Mike Trout, it's time for me to go, because in all the time that I've had the best teammate I've ever had on my team, we won as many playoff games as you and I did talking and watching right now. That would be 0 with Shohei Ohtani. So if I'm Mike Trout, I know he's a good guy, unassuming superstar, all that other stuff. I'm asking out. You say, Kevin, well, Mike Trout at this point in his career, what does he really have left? I don't know, but he needs to find out somewhere else other than Los Angeles with the Angels, because Shohei Ohtani was like, nope, it's time for me to go as well. So congratulations, though, to Shohei Ohtani, who broke the sports world with his $700 million contract. And just another reminder that if your kid can kick a soccer ball, can hit a baseball, or throw 100 miles an hour, you make sure you put them in that sport, whether it be soccer or baseball, because you might have a generational star on your hands. You just might. And for Shohei Ohtani, he is literally one of one. We've never seen someone with his athleticism, his speed, his power, his throwing ability, and his ability to hit a ball 450 feet while at the same time being able to throw a ball over 98 miles an hour. It doesn't happen. From Dark Salts here on the YouTube chat, Luka and Kyrie will take out the Lakers. I can see it. Well, you better hope that Kyrie is available to play, because Kyrie's not playing tonight, and he may not be available tomorrow night when they take on the Lakers. He's got that right heel contusion. So while I feel your confidence, I like where your confidence is coming from, Dark Salts, I don't think that we may see Kyrie tomorrow, but that remains to be seen after what happens tonight. But at the same time, it is what it is. But hey, shout out to Shohei, $700 million. The economics in the game, as far as the Dodgers are concerned, good on you. You've got a lineup now that boasts Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, and Shohei Ohtani. Oh, that's right. Clayton Kershaw still there, as is still one of the best pitchers in the game as well. So if you're Dave Roberts, the manager for the Dodgers, the pressure's on, my guy. You won that COVID title at Globe Life Field here in Arlington, a few years ago. Cool, good for you. It's time for you to get a quote-unquote real one of these. And if you can't do it with arguably the best baseball player ever along with this lineup, hey, man, I'm looking at you with some real side-eye, because it's time for Dave Roberts, a team that's won over 100 games each of the last 3 years and has not made it to the National League Championship Series. Yeah, Dave, you might want to get that together. And now the pressure is ultimately on you to get this done, because you now have the biggest star in the sport with the biggest contract in North American sports history. And there is no excuse anymore, based on the team that you have and the team that you had prior to getting Shohei Ohtani, not to win a World Series, if not next year, the following year. Because if you don't get a World Series, Dave, in the next couple of years, I don't see how Mr. Roberts keeps that job beyond 2025, because next year's what, 2024? I could do math. I don't see how he keeps that job beyond 2025. So good luck with that, Dave. Good luck with that. Again, appreciate you joining me here on the Gray Area Podcast. You can find me on Twitter or X, or whatever we call it these days, at Kevin Gray Sports. Make sure you subscribe to the channel as well. Cowboys get a 33-13 win over the Philadelphia Eagles. Week 14, wild and in the books. Apparently, there's 2 Monday night games. Shout out to the Dolphins and the Titans and the Packers and the G-Men. Giants absolutely suck at this point. Jordan Love, I think, is kind of good at football now. Shout out to him. And by the way, good on Justin Fields. Got a win over the Detroit Lions and helping out the rest of the NFC, because, when Justin Fields actually is able to throw the football and actually be able to run around a little bit, he's actually pretty good. So the Bears got a nice little win at Soldier Field yesterday over the Detroit Lions, taking out Jared Goff and Dan Campbell's group. By the way, on that, Lions defense right now, they're not very good. They're not very good at all. And that was another takeaway. Lions, maybe a little bit of mirage right now as they start to go through the rest of the regular season. Again, find me on Twitter or X at Kevin Gray Sports. Subscribe to the Gray Area podcast wherever you get your podcast for free. You'll be able to listen to the audio version here in just a little bit. I'll throw up the audio version once we're done here. And subscribe to Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube. I'll be doing this a few times a week. I'll have a guest with me on Wednesday. Don't know who that is yet. You can follow me, and I'll let you know who that is. That way we can have some fun. You could join me. Well, I'll try to do this around – I did it around 1:15 p.m. today. It'll be somewhere between the noon and 1 o'clock hour, as I'll have, obviously, the time on my hands to be able to do it, and you'll be able to see it here on the live stream and also, later on as well. So I'm working out a specific time to be able to do that depending on, who I have for a guest and that kind of thing. But you can generally catch it, if you will, between the 12 o'clock and 1 o'clock hour. Just follow me and you'll see what time it is. But I'm trying to nail down a specific time so that you can kind of schedule it, if you will, if you enjoy the show, to be able to come in and watch it. So I really appreciate this foray as we're getting back into this Gray Area podcast. Again, if you're unfamiliar with my work, I was previously with 105.3 The Fan for nearly 4 years, doing a variety of things with them. I had my nighttime show with Reginald Atatula from 7 to 11 p.m. on the Get Right. I then moved over to 97.1 The Freak as the Mavericks pre- and post-game host for them, so you can catch me every single Mavericks game night doing my thing there. And then you also hear me doing fill-in work on the various shows on 97.1 as well, particularly in the evenings with Jeff Kavanaugh and the Speakeasy. So that was a pretty surreal experience, being able to do some radio with Jeff Kavanaugh and the old Gray Wolf himself, Mike Reiner. Also having a chance to do some radio a little bit ago with Mark Stein as well. So just having some really cool, awesome experiences. Now on a new journey with iHeartRadio and 97.1 The Freak. So I really appreciate you supporting me on this journey. And that's one thing I want to make sure I say before I get out of here. Just thank you. I really appreciate all of you who have texted me, who have called me, who have messaged me, and just shown your love and support as I've gone through this entire journey. As you'll hear throughout the course of me doing this show, I've been at this podcast, radio, content creation game for over 10 years now. And to be in this position, thanks to not just, my family, obviously with my wife and my daughter, but the support of all of you who have, encouraged me throughout the years, it has meant a lot. So I do this. I love this. I love entertaining. I love talking about sports and being able to do it in the way that I've been able to do so. And we're going to have some fun on this podcast. Now that I'm able to commit the kind of time and resource to it, you can see my cute, fancy microphone here. If you're watching, we're going to turn this thing up. We're going to turn this thing up, and I've got a lot more coming your way, whether it be not just this show, the Inside the Mavs podcast, a couple of other projects that I plan on working on here as we get ready to go into 2024. We're going to turn this thing up here on Kevin Gray Sports here on YouTube, the podcast, Inside the Mavs, all kinds of stuff. So I'm really, really excited to take you with me on this journey, continue on this journey, and more importantly, we're going to have some fun along the way. So again, follow me on X at Kevin Gray Sports. Subscribe to the YouTube channel here at Kevin Gray Sports as well. Catch the Inside the Mavs podcast every single Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 3 times a week. The official Mavericks podcast of 97.1 The Freak. And make sure you give the podcast a 5-star rating, write a review for it, and do the same for the Gray Area podcast. If you got topics, if you got things that you want to talk about, you say, Kevin, I want to hear from this guest, or I want to talk about this. And this is your show just as much as it's mine. Let me know what you want to talk about, and we'll do it, because that's the kind of show that I want to have, an interactive, fun show that allows you to get involved, allows me to have as much fun with you. I'm not doing, traditional radio every single day the way that I was, but I want to make sure that I still have the fun conversations, and we'll go inside the gray area just like I used to on my radio show as well. We'll do all of that stuff here on the Gray Area podcast and throughout the other shows that I do. So again, if you got topics, if you got stuff you want to talk about, you want to hit me up on, let me know what it is, and we'll do it, because this show, again, as much as mine is yours as well. All right, I've done enough vamping. I'm going to get out of here. Appreciate you joining me here on the Gray Area Podcast here live on YouTube and on StreamYard. And I'll talk to you Wednesday here on the Gray Area Podcast. My name is Kevin Gray. I'll talk to you later. Peace.